We have 4, Susan, Heron, and Joel officially.
Okay, I heard you say we have a quorum, so, and it's 9 a.m., so I'm going to start here unless there's an objection. Okay.
All right.
All right, pursuant to the Illinois Attorney General's guidance to public bodies on the Open Meetings Act during the COVID-19 pandemic, dated July 2, 2020, board members may participate without being physically present in compliance with the established provisions. So with that, we'll call to order. Linda, I already heard you do a visual roll call. Do you need a verbal?
Yeah, because I only have 1 voting member in the room. So Hayden.
Okay.
Hayden.
Here.
There you go. Okay. Dina.
Here.
Joel. Bird.
Here.
Aaron. Armin.
Here.
Okay. 4, 6 voting members.
We have a quorum. Item 3, chairman remarks. I do not have any. Number 4, public comment. Anybody else?
Did you want to, were you going to make a mention of Chief Gorski?
Yes. Yeah, thanks for reminding me. Is Steve on?
No, he's not on. I thought you were just going to notate.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, Steve Gorski, he's retiring from the PAC committee. I just want to make comment that during his tenure on the PAC, I relied on him quite a bit. I think the guy was brilliant, knew what he was doing, so I relied on him a lot for the fire side of things. And I know I'm going to miss him, but we also have some very, very, very good replacements. So I know Steve's not here, but Steve, going to miss you, buddy. And good luck, and hope we can still rely on you in the future if we have any questions. So anyone else, comments for Steve? Okay, we'll move on.
And there will be a resolution on the ETS board this Wednesday for his service.
All right.
And no public comment.
Okay, thank you, Linda. I appreciate that.
Sure.
Item 5, approval of the minutes, 5A.A and 5A.B. If we could take both these items together. It's the Policy Advisory Committee meeting minutes from May 3rd and May 17th. Can I get a motion to approve, please?
Okay, I have to give you a point of order. So if you do a motion to combine them, you have to take that separately and then a motion to approve. So you're going to have to vote twice. So you can do it either way.
All right, just how about a motion to combine then?
Motion heard.
Second, please.
Second. Harmon.
Those in favor signify by saying aye.
I got to do a roll call. It's just those things.
I am just getting slaughtered this morning.
I know. It's okay. We're here for it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Heard,
Yes.
Aaron, Barman,
Yes.
Dina,
Yes.
Hayden,
Yes.
Joel. Motion-
Yes.
Oh. He just came up. Okay. Okay. All right. So your motion to combine is approved.
Okay, now motion to approve the meeting minutes from May 3rd and May 17th. Motion, please.
So move, Harmon.
You want a second?
Second, Heard.
I'll second. Okay. All right. So I have a motion by Barman, second by Dina. Barman,
Yes.
Dina,
Yes.
Hayden,
Yes.
Joel,
Yes.
Heard,
Yes.
Aaron. Approved.
Steve is trying to log on now. He's having a couple technical issues.
Okay.
All right. The radio maintainer report, usually just ask for a motion to place it on file, but Matt, could you please just make a comment in the report? You made comment about the batteries and the parts are available till 2023, and then of course recertifying. If you can make a couple quick comments about that.
Yeah, so the as we kind of discussed last meeting, the XE's life end of life is planned until December 2023 or until parts are exhausted. I know Linda and Eve were already looking kind of at doing a last time purchase of items for that radio, and I know Eve located some batteries, and I believe we've purchased some batteries for it. But Motorola is no longer making the green dot batteries for those radios. John Lozar has been working with Eve to see if they can find a replacement battery. There are some manufacturers out there that say that they have a intrinsically safe radio or safe battery. So we're trying to get some samples and figure out what we're going to do to see if it's feasible to continue to keep replacing batteries that fail for the 7000 XEs. So it's still some work in progress. I think there's some, we've gone on this roller coaster ride where, yeah, we're going to keep these things alive to wait, all the stuff is being no longer available. And now it looks like we might be able to find a few replacements, but we're looking at what certifications do these replacements have, since it isn't directly from Motorola, in some of those things. So we're trying to do our due diligence before we have a recommendation of, yeah, this can be a replacement battery.
Okay. All right. Having heard that, then can I get a motion to place Matt's report on file?
I'll make a motion to place Matt's report on file. Second, Joel.
All right. Those in favor?
Yeah.
Roll call. Call myself.
Dina?
Yes.
Aiden?
Yes.
Joel?
Yes.
Bird?
Yes.
Aaron? Barbie?
Yes.
All right. Thank you very much. Moving on to item number 6, the Dieter's portable and mobile radio replacement. Having heard those comments from Matt, I'd like to reiterate again, I'd love to be able to get this project to the board in July. So I still want to try very hard to do that. And so I want to tackle one of those issues head on right now. And I believe that we can settle the encryption issue today for sure. And I believe the answer to that is the AES 256 encryption software, hardware, whatever it's called. So with that, I want to open up the floor for comments about encryption. I'd like to settle that one today and continue to move on. So Matt, anyone else comments about encryption, or are we ready to pass?
So for me, I agree. I think AES 256 is the thing to go. It's the STARCOM requirement for new users coming onto the system. It's the thing that's recommended by all the federal stuff, all the federal agencies. So I think definitely 256 is the way to go. I think the one caveat I would say is we also still want ADP to ease the migration. And since that's a zero charge feature on Motorola radio, at least the ones that we've looked at so far, I think having both in the radio would be how we do this. I think AES 256 is the long-term, is the one that we ultimately want to get to when we deploy the radios.
Okay. Anyone else comments on the encryption, AES 256 and ADP? All right, I think we settled that issue. So encryption is settled then. And we'll move on from there. And Linda, do we go into radio features?
So
Standardizing the radio. Has everyone had an opportunity to see the two radios that are available out there?
So a couple things. When last we got together, we had talked about starting the report. So you got a draft, or I just started filling in some of the bones of the report. The way you see it is in memo format, because that's the standard way we introduce things to the ETS board these days. As you're reading through it, if you see your name by it, I'm assuming, or I'm suggesting that those people fill in those areas. So, Chief Shar on the police survey, Deputy Chief Conley on the fire survey, Matt Barman on some of the encryption. I would also say, even though you've set this, the encryption down, it doesn't mean you can't go back and change it as discussion goes on and if we find something else. So that's just the basic bones as we start adding. And then the other thing that we did is Chairman Hayden had asked me to put together an outline. So together probably about a month and a half ago or so, we put together the outline that you got, just kind of putting down all the things that we could think of that we're going to have to be answered. Doesn't mean it's all inclusive. If we have other items, it can be added to this list, but it just kind of helps keep everybody on track of some of the things we need to be discussing. From the original outline to what you got for this meeting, I think, we can go back to the battery discussion for fire for a second. But one of the things we're going to need sooner than later is exact numbers. So if you're looking at your outline under item 2, you need exact numbers for fire mobile, fire part-time, fire paid on call, fire personnel with radios who don't respond to calls. So like inspectors, whatnot, police, community service officers, and then I have an others question mark. I don't know if there's others that may be inclusive to that or may not be. So that's kind of where we're at. So one, we've already done that initial survey. 2, that's that information. To Chairman Hayden's point on finalizing brand recommendation, Motorola did drop off 2 ruggedized radios for review. I think John Lozar has those. I'm wondering if we might not have a couple of, especially since masks are coming off, it's a little easier for people to get together. I'm getting a little heartburn on the status of the fire radios, and I think we need to move. And I don't know if sending them around to 28 different agencies is going to take too much time. Maybe we can do some group work and then just sort of come to consensus of, is this the model you want, or do we need to look at something else? And then those models can go around for further, looking at it. That would be one of my recommendations, because I feel like you're going to have to make some brand decisions and then add-ons shortly after that, unless you feel that this is what fire hasn't seen that ruggedized Apex Next. So I think you need to see that compared to the 8,000, or if there's something else you want to look at, no one's brought anything forward. So if we're looking at brand and features or add-ons, that's kind of where we're at for that.
Okay, so Linda, in your opinion, then, what is our next toughest, biggest issue to tackle?
I hate to say survey,
Yeah.
but it's probably the easiest way to collect the numbers or the categories of numbers that I just rattled off for people, because once you start making decisions, having those numbers will help with costing and things like that. So if the committee's okay with that, I don't know if there's anything else you want to ask, but we can start having the county survey person put that together. I don't know if there's anything else you want to survey at this point.
The survey, just the number of portables that we need for sworn law enforcement officers on the LE side.
And fire, you really need fire, because the plan to use the Apex 7,000 XEs is kind of falling apart now. So we're going to really have to look at what the impact is for, earlier, before this particular committee was seated, there was consensus that we should be doing a 1-to-1 for at least full-time officers. So we should look at those part-time and on-call numbers to see what that actual impact's going to be.
Okay. Hey, Steve Heron and Bill Homer, do you think we could get that out to the police chiefs? Very
Yeah.
fast and get a
Yeah.
response?
That'd be the easiest way to do it. So you're saying sworn only. Don't we want to have an inventory of all potential radios?
Yeah,
So I would think we'd want CSOs, records. You'd want that whole piece.
right.
I could probably get that done pretty quickly.
Oh, yeah.
I've got a spreadsheet from umpteen years ago that I did.
Okay. So Steve, on behalf of the DuPage Chiefs, then are you going to send something out, just a simple survey so they don't get confused?
Very simple, yes.
Okay.
All right, and then on the fire side, what do you want to do?
Pat, Jim?
Trying to go back and find the list of what you needed, Linda. I think we have most of it. The only part that I don't believe we have is necessarily a breakdown between part-time and paid on call. And I assume you're using those words just as they're intended to mean, which just definitions are all on the same page, because I think Chief Heron brought this up before. So I'll take Westmont as the example. So Westmont has, any given time, 65 to 80 part-time members, but they all work on shift, and some of them work more hours on shift than full-time sworn firefighters do. And I give you a counter example, there'd be Clarendon Hills, who has some firefighters that look like that, and then some who are truly paid on call, meaning they only come to the station when they are called. They're at home, they don't work shift. That's the distinction we're trying to capture. Is that correct?
Guess so. I'm just trying to make sure we get everybody, and if we have to do a step down on replacement for cost purposes, what your prioritization would be. So if we have a better idea of, you know, and then is it a 1-to-1 for part-time? Is it a 1-to-1 for paid on call, or is it, you have a complement of radios at the state? I don't know.
Understand. So we have all the information. We have the total number. The only number I think we're missing would be the split between true paid on call and part-time. So yeah, that would be a new survey question. I think everything else we already have. We have the total numbers. We have the total number of fire prevention personnel that might use radios. We have the total number of EMA personnel that are part of fire departments. We don't have, and maybe for police, some EMAs are part of police agencies. We fire did not capture that in any of our surveys. So if that's of interest to capture that number, we have the fire half of it, but not those EMAs that happen to report to villages or police agencies separately.
You know, that reminds me, Steve, that Elmhurst has police auxiliaries. And I don't know what they did.
Yeah, I think Oak Brook does. There's a few of them that have auxiliaries or part-timers, so we can include that. I'll get a hold of Bill Homer, and we'll come up with a survey and get it out. I've got a list of about maybe eight or nine already, so.
All right, can we have this back for our next meeting in 2 weeks?
I would think, yeah.
Is that good enough, Linda?
When are you going to get it out?
All right, if anybody's needing help with a Survey Monkey survey, let me know. The county has people that can do that. If you don't, I'm assuming the people speaking were taking those tasks. Aaron and
I don't recall volunteering.
those could be voice votes. All right.
I'm happy to work with the fire PAC members to get this done.
Thank
I
you.
think Bill Homer volunteered to do this one, so I'll give him a hand. It's awesome.
I didn't know I volunteered, but thank you, Steve.
Congratulations.
And just again, so we're clear, whether it's police or fire, we want sort of the total population, and then within that population, you know, you have all these different breakdowns, right? You have what would be considered full-time or sworn, part-time, paid on call, auxiliary, and then you have sort of related within their CSOs, fire prevention, EMA. You kind of want the detail. You want to know how many in each of those categories. Is that correct?
I believe that that's the easiest way for the ETSB to board members to make a decision on how they want to spend money. We'll put it all out there, but if there has to be, you remember, we've done periodically where when we did the original purchase, there were, within the life of the first airtime contract, there was the ability to buy more radios at that pricing. So, if we're going Motorola, I'm sure we can negotiate the same thing. And then that allows us to step it down multiple years, additional purchases, or take the ones that are still in service as they die and replace them one off, more or less. So, I think if the board is trying to make a decision on something this large, the more details they have, the easier it's going to be. So that was the long answer to a short question. Yes.
All right. And I assume for fire, you still want the numbers for the sort of current method, which is essentially what would be the right number for one mobile per vehicle and one portable per riding position. So you know what that number is. Is that correct?
That would be great.
We should have that number.
That anyway, you're just going to add on the additional portables. So yeah.
Yeah. So we have that set of numbers.
And then clarification, this is going to be for current DuPage Starcom users. So not Naperville, not Aurora, not Lamont, not the agencies that are the fringe or on other systems, correct?
Correct.
My old sheet shows all of them in it, so.
They're welcome to purchase off the contract if we get to that point, but I mean, that's not something the ETS board is going to decide on.
Got it.
Okay. So that's the numbers, and then brand recommendation. Is there, does anybody have an idea of how many fire or how many police departments have seen the Apex Next radio? That list is going around. I don't know where it is right now.
Brandon, can you make comment about the ACDC agency?
Sure, we've had about 4 ACDCs agencies look at it so far. That's kind of all that said they wanted to. We're on our last one now.
Okay. When's that going to be completed?
This week.
All right, thank you. And is everyone satisfied with the models, or what's the comment back on?
They are satisfied. There are some questions, more so on the features that we're going to get on them, which I can't give answers to yet. So, but yeah, most happy with it. I do have kind of a list from each agency that likes and dislikes of the radios that I can give to you guys when we're done.
All right. And so we only have 2 demo radios out there for everyone to see. So do we need to get those radios to DUCOM when you're done, Brandon?
We could definitely do that.
Okay, because that's all we had. Am I right on that, Linda?
Yeah, we have two non-ruggedized and 2 ruggedized
Okay.
for fire. So is it worth having some group meetings, or?
Yes.
Okay, are there ops meetings that would be convenient to?
So ACDC has a fire ops meeting tomorrow.
Okay.
And DUCOM? I mean, not that we can't, if you want to pick some meeting dates after the fire, if ACDC's fire ops meeting after tomorrow, then let's pick some other dates.
Chris is tomorrow as well.
Okay, time. What time is your meeting tomorrow, Brandon?
1 o'clock.
1 o'clock.
Well, yeah, we could each have one and talk to each other. I'm open for suggestions and how you all want to determine on the fire side what you want to do.
So we have operations meetings, we have support services meetings, where most of the chiefs are there. It would be nice to have hands-on for every department, and I don't know how many departments from the DUCOM agencies have had a chance to evaluate them. I know the Book has not.
I don't think they're still on John Lozar's desk. I don't think they've gone out anywhere.
Okay. Yeah.
So
Linda, by any chance, can Motorola give us just a couple more? So we can finish this project in the next 2 weeks?
I can ask.
Okay, I'd appreciate it.
I mean, it took them about 3 weeks to get us the ruggedized ones that we have right now. And they didn't come with a case or anything, like they were pretty much hot off the factory floor. So I'll see what I can do to just keep them and start putting them in service. But I'll see what I can do. But that's why I'm suggesting group meetings or things like that, because I feel the urgency of making this decision, because even if you decided today, the lead time is 8 weeks, and that's assuming we're right in the next line, we're the next in line. So it's 8 weeks, and then programming, et cetera, and we have about 30 batteries left. So, on the green dot batteries. So we're running on a fine edge here. So fire is, in terms of replacement, much more critical at this point. It's gone from essential to critical. Not that police aren't critical, but I don't have any issues with replacement parts for the regular 7000s. So however you want to do group meetings or small group meetings, we can start working out a schedule after the ops meetings. I would suggest that since it's already in the DUCOM building, that we start there tomorrow at 1 o'clock, since the radios are already there, and then we can work from that point and get them circulating, and then I'll see what I can do for another set of radios.
And what are the radios that John Lozar has, the Apex Next and the 8000?
There are some Apex 8000 ruggedized radios already in service in the system, because those are what we're replacing the 7000s with at this point, because the Apex Next ruggedized were not available. He has Apex Next, and do we have any 8000s in the back? I don't think so. I don't know that we have any right now. We ordered a couple more for spare, but I don't know. I mean, I don't know if anybody has one. They're not that dissimilar. Is John on? Yeah.
Yes. I have an 8000 portable right now. We got replaced in January, I believe, with that Bensonville Spiller Pays incident.
Right. Is it that different from the 7000?
It's smaller. Screen
Yeah, there's some size difference. There's some difference on the microphone that came standard with it. But essentially it works the same way as what we're familiar with. It's got a different display screen and stuff, but it can essentially work the same way that our current radios work. And I can show that at ACDC Ops tomorrow, if that would help anybody.
So Pat, Jim, and Brandon, will ACDC be finished with the radios tomorrow so we can get them off the DUCOM?
With the police ones,
Police and fire.
so police, I would probably need another day or two, so probably Wednesday we'd be done.
Okay.
And fire, we haven't had a chance to see yet, so.
All right. As soon as you're done with them, would you, if you have to, make arrangements with Matt and transfer them over ASAP?
Definitely, make that happen.
Appreciate that.
So while we're on the topic of the fire radios, I did ask Jim Conley to do some background on some of the information on the batteries that we've been looking at. So I don't know if Jim want to update. We didn't get a chance to touch base on it. The differences between the green dots were the ones specifically manufactured for the US and made. Well, go ahead, Jim. There you go.
Thanks, Linda, and Matt or John, jump in here if you've got thoughts or additional information. So I kind of went back to square one, which was not what I was hoping. I thought this would be an easy question when Linda first asked it, but it got me looking at the radios and at the labeling and marking on the radios and on the batteries, and some of it was a little little surprising. I don't think it's bad news. I think it was just a little surprising. So supposedly these radios were FM, factory mutual approved. That doesn't appear anywhere in moto specs, manuals, or any markings on the radios or batteries. Not to say they weren't tested, but it just doesn't appear anywhere. They do have a third-party testing lab marking on them, but that is not an FM or a UL label. Motorola touts them as being available for hazard certification for hazardous locations, which means that intrinsically safe. But there's really no markings that I've seen unless they're buried in the radio somewhere, but you can't see them and they're not on the batteries themselves. So the only certification marks on the APX, and I'm talking about the 7000 XEs, that's the fire ruggedized portables now. They have a C and what looks like an E marking, which is a self-certification marking applied by the manufacturer. So they don't have a third-party testing marking by UL, FM, or anybody else. They're certified, the batteries are certified to a standard called TIA 4950. That's what they should be certified to, but none of our batteries that we've received since 2015 have any UL or FM markings that correspond to that. It gets confusing with all these different battery numbers. Motorola's product data sheet lists one thing. I went into the listings, FM, probably because they've dropped the listing. I could not find the radio listed anywhere in FM listings. Product data sheet lists an NNTN 8930 and an 8921 as the only batteries for hazardous locations. However, neither of those batteries have been provided by Moto or ETSB to fire departments, to my knowledge, in the last 6 years. Eve noted that the 8930 battery is also not for use below 32 degrees, at least with some model radios. So we probably need to clarify that for IS. Kind of long story short is I believe the radios were tested. I believe the radios are most likely intrinsically safe. I think it's a real Moto kind of documentation mess as to what is the truly approved certification process for the batteries. And just so we're clear, when we talk about intrinsically safe batteries, that means the battery and the radio as a pair have been tested and that they are suitable for use in a class 1 division 1 location. That means a firefighter who accidentally, or could be anybody, but a firefighter who accidentally walks into a natural gas leak that's in the explosive range, that radio should not create enough energy or spark to cause ignition and explosion. That's what intrinsically safe radio should do. So I don't mean to confuse everybody. I just tell you that it's kind of a confusing documentation mess, and I'd ask John or Matt if they have any additional information, but I can't find clear documentation that follows from beginning to end of what batteries are suitable with these radios based on the markings on the batteries or the radios.
Okay. Well,
Can I ask a question here, Bill?
sure.
Other than, so Jim, Matt, or John, you guys are the brains on this thing. What data is out there, or what publications are out there of what radios that will comply with the standards? And I know we continue to talk about Motorola, and at the end of the day, that may be fine. But is there other radios out there that comply with what fire department is looking for?
So I'll give you the short answer and let Matt and John jump in. Short answer is the current standard, not the new NFPA standard, but the current standards for intrinsically safe. I know there's at least one other manufacturer, and I'm sure there's more, that manufacture radios that are intrinsically safe, suitable for use in hazardous environments. And the reason I know that is because those radios are used in probably from a hazardous location perspective, more dangerous locations than typical firefighter applications, such as mining and other places, chemical plants, where you truly have more potential for class 1, division 1 or division 2 locations. So yes, they're out there and there's other manufacturers. As to the new NFPA standard, I don't believe there's anybody yet that has truly certified a radio to that standard, but I expect that some of those same manufacturers will do that probably in the near future, probably this year sometime. Does that answer your question, Steve?
Well, a little bit, because I'm going to go into the encryption. Now that we've improved the encryption, these radios, I'm sure, now that we're meeting a national standard, may be more, and I'll twist my own words, may be more suitable for a firefighter. Because I think whatever we put on the hip or the shoulder of a firefighter needs to be a radio that's safe. And whatever radio we're going to get. So I think that's what I'm looking for, is what else is out there? Is there other product out there where the publication is clear, where we have a safe radio that we're putting on every firefighter, paramedic, every, let's say, first responder for that matter. Although fire, I want you guys to go in first on most of that stuff. You know a lot more what you're doing. So that would be my open question, is what other radios are out there? What other radios are safe? Are there other radios that meet or exceed the current standards? And Jim is kind of identifying that there is. Should we be looking at that as well?
So I guess I'll jump in. I would agree with Chief Conley on the certifications, and there's a lot of them. I think it's what is it that we want to ensure, and I'll let John jump in as to what the requirements were that he was looking at for replacement in a second. But it really comes down to, I think with the new radio purchase, I do think going to that new standard, make sure we have that certification would be a good practice for the newly purchased radios going forward. As far as, I think any radio that we want to say we're going to buy as the replacement, I think we hold to that new standard, that new lab that's coming out later this year. But I don't know that we should apply that standard to something that we're trying to find as a replacement to something we already have fielded. So I think we have to figure out what's those standards that we want to be safe. Just because Morrold doesn't test it with the radio doesn't mean another vendor can't do those same tests. And I think it's what is it that's out there. And with that, I guess I'll ask John of the one manufacturer I know that he may have found that's intrinsically safe, if he has any other things on that.
Yes, I have one comment on the aftermarket battery that I found. It does state that it is intrinsically safe, which led me to do some more research as far as what does intrinsically safe really mean? What is the standard that is being used? And it appears that this particular battery uses an ISO standard for it, which is different than the FM. So in the process of trying to figure out what is the difference between the ISO and the FM, I ran into some roadblocks here where the documents that are required to figure this out cost money. You have to purchase those documents. They're anywhere from $88 to $100 per document. So I've hit a roadblock on some of this research.
Should we buy the documents?
I'm not sure what's in the documents. I'm not sure if there's any value to it. I mean, it just seems like there's nothing. And I've talked to, Chief Conley as well, see if he could help us with some of the documents. But unfortunately, these documents are not within the fire realm. They're more of documents that are under the ISO standard and so on, something that we don't have easy access to.
Okay, then I'm gonna throw something out there. Melinda, I don't know if you know the answer to this or not, but can we afford to buy brand new radios for everybody, LE and fire? And it sounds like it's probably necessary to move fire ahead. Am I understanding it the same way, or what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think you bundle them in one package once you decide on what you want, but fire certainly has a bigger time constraint. So can we afford is going to depend on what you pick, how much they are, and what kind of milestone payment schedule we work out. Right now, there's roughly 17 million in the equipment replacement or the capital contingency line item for purchasing. So
If I may, when you say that fire should be moved up in the process, is that because of the battery issue?
yes,
So if we can come up with the solution for the battery issue, we could wait a little bit longer. Because I do agree with Matt in stating that we would be probably to our advantage to wait for the NFPA 1802 radios.
the ratings.
to be
Yeah,
approved through the
absolutely.
lab Before we made a big purchase.
Absolutely. And if you can get to the next standard, that'll take you for the next 5 to 7 years, you should do that.
Okay.
And they're right there. They're just nobody's starting to test them yet. So,
Right.
and there are other brands. And if you want other brands, I think you need to bring them forward so that they can be considered.
Yeah, so I think the priority should be to find a safe solution for the battery issue.
Well,
agree?
yeah, the chiefs are gonna have to tell me what they're comfortable with.
Mhm.
I mean, there's batteries. It's just gonna be a matter, bottom line is, are you gonna Motorola to say yes to any of these? No. But can you find, to Chief Conley's point, a battery that will work? Yes. And it's just gonna be the comfort level of every individual chief and agency in using those.
So Linda, to get to the greater comfort level, I think the documents that John's identified would be helpful. I don't think it's a huge investment, a few $100s to, have the documents and be able to compare. And, sometimes standards are significantly different and have totally different criteria. And sometimes they're, almost mirror images and very, minor deviations on labeling or some other nuance. So I think it would be helpful that certainly the maintainer can speak to it and say they've researched it and there's minor differences. That gets us to one step, and then the next step, which I don't know the answer to, and I don't know if Matt or John do, is whoever these other battery manufacturers are, they may be claiming to have produced an intrinsically safe battery, but it's an assembly. The battery and the radio go together. So unless somebody has tested an APX 7000 XE with that manufacturer's battery, I don't think at the end of the day you still have a listed or certified product in any way. Not to say that I wouldn't be willing to consider that as a viable option. I'm just saying, the only truly way to get to a certified assembly is to test the two things together. And I don't know if any of these manufacturers have done that. And John, I don't know if you have any information to that effect.
No, I don't have anything that I've read through, although there is a document out there. And I just was presented this, so we're going to have to look at this document talking about evaluation of intrinsically safe for emergency responder equipment. It was a report that was issued by the Fire Research Protection Foundation. So again, I've not had a chance to look through that yet.
That was not National Fire Protection Research Foundation did that one. Is that correct? That's the one you're talking about?
Yeah, that's what it appears to be.
Yeah, it's an offshoot of NFPA. Yep.
So I think we can look, I mean, this is something, even I talked about in the monthly report, to me, we're just starting to peel the onion on how do we get to a battery that we feel comfortable replacing the existing fleet of batteries, to use. And I think I hear the questions of, can we find one? Does it meet the same standards that we have out there today? If not, Is there people that do testing? How much would it be? I think those are types of questions that we need to do a little research on and come back and give you that information. And if it's documents, you know, I think we can dig a little deeper. Some of this I think is really on the edge, you know, hot off the presses of what John has found as well. So I'd like a little time to dig deeper before we made a decision of, oh, we have to change which radios we're buying first and all of that. I think we have to find that solution for our current radios to make sure we can buy that time.
Okay. Can you finish that in the next 2 weeks, Matt?
We will take a stab.
Can you do that by the end of the day, Matt?
You know what? I like that. Yeah, by the end of the day.
Yeah, right.
Pushing
That
your
might be a
luck,
little
Chief.
too much.
Okay. All right. So we have a couple of things then for the next meeting. I mean, we're going to continue working on the batteries and then of course, the survey for the next 2 weeks. So is there anything else we want to discuss on item 6, the DBERS portable mobile replacement today?
I have a couple of things on your list of features. Under discussion right now is Wi-Fi, TDMA, GPS, over-the-air programming, which if you do Wi-Fi, I don't know how critical that's going to be. And the AES encryption, multi-key application services. Now, application, and I'm updating the outline as we're talking, and then I'll send that out today so that you can see what notes are taken. But application services on the current Apex Next would be the LTE for this at this point. So I'm just kind of adding the things that are under discussion. I don't, you know, you can take them off later or do whatever you want, but I'm just putting them on so that you have an idea of where we're at. I think on your agenda, you have standardized radio training, which was something Chief Dinah.
Andrew, okay, so we're moving on to 6A.
So one just quick question, Linda, I guess for the stuff that's assigned to us, are you wanting us to send you the snippet so it can be in next packet, or is it, how do you want the updates delivered?
On the report?
Yeah.
If you have, you know, as you get them done, send them over, I'll merge them all together and get them out to everybody as people are done with their sections. And then I would recommend, you know, we can certainly in the lengthy portion of the report, put the surveys and any other handouts or backup material on the back side of the report. I'd like to keep the summary as short and sweet as possible. And then the executive summary in memo format, and then any support documentation behind that. So if you've got something you want included, then we'll just keep building it. We might, if it starts getting bigger, we can put it on the extranet where people can go grab, you know, we can keep the report going, but we'll put all the documents together in the extranet and keep them there.
All right. Okay, so 6A, Andrew, the standardized radio training. You want to?
Yes, and this should be quick. Won't take a lot of time, but this is something that the DUCOM Support Services Chief had asked me to bring up at this meeting. Every year we get an annual subscriber units and accessory training notification and a modification notification that we have to sign off. Every person on our department or district has to sign that they did the training. We send it back to the ETSB, let them know that we did it. And that's great, but what the chiefs are looking for is more of a standardized, comprehensive radio training to go along with that. Because especially as we move forward with purchasing new radios, newer radios are more complex, there's more working parts, or maybe there's less working parts, but they're certainly more complex, they could do more things. And what we found from many of the NIOSH reports, communications and radio issues are always at the top of the list. So I think it would be to our advantage to make a more comprehensive radio training annually, if that's something that ETSB could do as we roll out our current radios, as we move into the new radio purchase. So that's something that our current members and new members coming on would be doing every single year.
I agree with you. And Brandon, I'm gonna pick on you again. Didn't EDC have a training outline? Weren't we doing that? In fact, wasn't it the responsibility of the communication agencies, ACDC and DUCOM, to do this?
You mean to complete training with each member of our member agencies?
Yeah.
So we do sort of radio drills. We push for each month, but individual training, you know, this is how you do this. This we have not kind of gone down that road yet.
All right. And Andrew, you want to do individual. You want everyone on each individual person in your department to sign off. That's your recommendation?
Yes, right. So currently they sign off on a subscriber unit and accessory training. They sign off on a modification training stating that, hey, if they modify the radio in any way, specifically like take a longer antenna and put a shorter antenna on it, that they know that they're affecting the function of that radio.
So, are you done? I was
No,
gonna,
actually, just looking for something a little more in-depth and comprehensive, like, hey, this is what this button does, this is what that button does, this is how you change the different banks on channels.
so, one of the things I had that we're prepping for you right now is, the radio steering committee under Chief Heron, and I think Chief Heron did most of the writing of this. We created all these policies. So you have about 15, 20 policies that should be reviewed to go against whatever radios you're picking. So we can make a full, what you're referring to is training or review of policy that's been created. So those are policies. We can create a training policy and then add those, a feature manual or, worksheet and an operation. On the school safety committee, the STARCOM school safety committee, they were also talking about standardized radio training and a quick PowerPoint of, radio etiquette and blah, 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 blah. So, we can provide you with a bunch of different things to decide as PAC what you want included in that training. But I think definitely, with the new radios and whatever stays in service, because if we keep the 7000s in service for cash radios and things like that, then you'll need to have some training on that too, because they are slightly different and mics and things. So we certainly can add that to the list. I think it's on your outline under future discussion. It's listed code plug changes, training and policy review. Is that sufficient for now while you're working on what you want to recommend?
Yes.
Yeah, I do.
If you decide you want it someplace else, just let me know. Okay.
Linda, if you're looking for resources, I think what Chief Dinah was mostly referring to was, besides the policies, was the actual function of the radio and the features and how to use them. Addison, John Sullivan has a pretty good training program they use. We've used a version of it. They're out there. I think 90% of it's probably there already, rather than reinventing the wheel.
Good place to start. It's always good to give you a baseline for things you want to, and then it's easier to work off of yes or no or add what's missing. Okay.
Brandon, have you seen John Sullivan's training outline?
I have not, no.
Would you get it, please?
Yeah, can take a look.
All right. Andrew, anything else then on standardized training?
No, that is all. Thank you.
All right, thank you. The NFPA 1802.
Yes, that is something that I asked to be put on the agenda. And again, this kind of goes along with the comments that Matt Barman made, that, we probably should be waiting for the new NFPA 1802 standard. I don't want to rehash conversations that we already had, but it is a very interesting article. I supplied the actual article scanned and a link to the article as well, in Firehouse Magazine, and it is written by one of the people who were on that NFPA 1802 committee. So if you get an opportunity, please take a look at that.
All right. Thank you very much.
And that's all I have on that. Thank you.
Any other comments on the NFPA? All right, we'll move on to 6C, the draft report discussion.
We've been kind of doing it all along. Like I said, at the end of the day today, or at the end of the meeting today, I'll send out any updates to the outline based on what was discussed here. If you see your name next to something, please feel free to fill in that part of the report. There's attachments, send it to us, and we'll start combining and putting it all together and getting it back out. Not that other committee members can't add to different sections, but the names next to the certain sections were based on what they had presented or worked on currently. And I think you reviewed all of that in terms of farming with encryption and things like that. So we keep working through it and adding, so it'll be ready by the time you've answered all the questions on the outline. And unless there's other direction or things you'd like to add to that, that's all I have.
Linda, it's Jim, a very minor point on the top of the second page where it's talking about the fire recommendation. It says the fire recommendation is 1 mobile per vehicle, 1 portable for each full-time officer. I know that's your police speak, but it probably, I think we meant 1 each full-time firefighter. Sound right? Officers to us are just officers, lieutenants, captains. It's not, we're talking every full-time member, right?
Yeah, everybody gets a portable.
Okay.
Well, this is every full-time member is what it
Yeah.
says.
Okay.
That was the intent, I'm sure, is what you meant.
All right. This is why it's out there, so you can make these comments. Like I said, I just started adding things in, and based on where you're at with looking at Motorola radios, and you'll note that it says in there, if you look at something else and decide not to use it, or you decide not to use Motorola, we can put all of that in the background as to why you chose whatever radio. So I've only added things in here based on where you are today. So I think the biggest thing is if you want to consider something else, you need to do that, get it now into the hands of people who are going to give you feedback.
I agree.
Should we include justification for either radio, whether it's Motorola or whatever radio? I almost think we start at square one. At Fires, this is a great example of what Fire's doing. I mean, we've got to meet that standard for Fire, and if a portable meets that standard, that certainly is something that we need to. Obviously, we need to have it. But I would almost think no matter what brand we use, we need to justify why. I mean, including the tech side. You've got a lot of equipment that we've already purchased. Those are all factors that have to be included in this. But I would think anything that we pick, we need to justify why.
I think I said that, so I'll agree with you.
Okay.
But whatever the recommendation is can be in the report. And then anything that was reviewed and discounted or whatever, we can put in the background as, yeah.
That's fine. As long as that's clear, I'm good. And
All
sounds
right.
like you sent it clear. I didn't receive it clear, so apologize.
And 9.
Yeah.
Good. We're good.
Moving on to item 7, then old business. I don't have any old business. Anyone else have old business? Item 8, new business. Nothing. Next meeting, Monday, June 21. And for that meeting, for sure, we'll have the surveys done on both the LE and Fireside, and we'll probably have the battery issues all answered, right, Matt? I see you laughing there.
We can try.
We'll try. And any other comments then before we adjourn?
Just one real quick one on the training. The one thing that I have found in training, especially with the, I'm going to call them newer people. Everybody is new to me, obviously, but I see that video is a much better mean for the current employees, the current group of employees that we have. If I put a PowerPoint in front of them, I put a document or whatever, they'll get it. They aren't going to get it as maybe as in-depth as they will with a video. So we've been finding video is a much better process or a better medium to train than not. That's my only 2 cents.
Okay.
That's a great recommendation. I agree with that as well.
Because then you can pick it up, play it. You can pick it up in the squads. The fire truck's not so probably, but you can pick it up when you're trying to figure it out. If you have a question on it, you can tag it. There's a whole bunch of things that can be done on them, but it's there, it's done. You make a change, you just update the video. It's pretty simple.
Okay, good suggestion. All right, a motion to adjourn, please.
So move, Barman.
Second, Heron.
Roll call. Oh, we don't have to do roll call for adjourn.
Technically, you're supposed to, but Barman,
Yes.
Dina,
Yes.
Hayden,
Yes.
Joel,
Yes.
Bird,
Yes.
Aaron.
Yep.
Okay, we're adjourned. Thank you very much, everybody. See you on the 21st.
All right, thanks.
Take care.
Take care. Bye-bye.